We now turn to the question, what is a decision? Our goal here is to provide a solid philosophical foundation for the study of decision science, as well as a solid foundation for a dialogue process of effective inquiry for decision quality. Our first assumption is that humans create decisions when they become conscious of the confluence of doing and caring. A decision is a commitment to do something, which is to say, a commitment to a course of action. To create a decision, we must perceive more than one available course of action, and we must care about what could happen. So this figure represents the confluence of considering a course of action and caring what could happen. Now, if we know what to do, we don't have a decision. So the third aspect of creating a decision involves not being sure what to do. So we have this confluence of doing and caring, and we aren't sure what to do. We make a sharp distinction here between what we do and what happens. This is an essential foundation for applying decision theory to model our decisions, and you could even say the distinction between what we do and what happens as a result is a philosophical foundation of classical decision theory. Further, we must believe what we do influences what happens. The third essential dimension of a decision is belief about causality or influence. What we do can change what happens. To have a decision, we must have a choice about what to do. We must care what happens, and we must believe what we do influences what happens. This figure depicts the intersection of doing, caring, and believing that the doing affects what we care about. Without beliefs about influence, we would not have a decision, since what we do would not matter. But there is another, perhaps even more fundamental and more essential dimension of every decision we make. We don't think about everything all at once. The fourth essential dimension of a decision is framing. In order to create a decision, we must establish boundaries regarding what is part of the decision and what is not. Without framing, everything we could do, believe, or care about our entire life, our entire future, would be part of every decision, and we would be overwhelmed by the complexity. In decision analysis practice in organizations, it's been found that framing can be one of the most challenging parts of a decision. For individual decisions, framing can be challenging as well. We'll call this confluence of doing, caring, believing, and framing the decision matrix. Decisions emanate from this matrix. The term matrix is derived from the Latin word for womb. It means an environment or material in which something develops. Our capacity for awareness lies at the center of this matrix. So, a decision is conceived in this womb when we become conscious of a confluence of doing and caring, action and value. The decision matures as our consciousness moves within the dimensions of the matrix, exploring qualities and interrelationships in a given context. We become concerned with how our actions, what we do, affects what we care about. We become concerned about what to include and what to leave out in our thinking about this decision. So finally, a decision is born when we achieve clarity and commit to a course of action. This figure depicts the decision matrix, which is a nexus of human consciousness and capacities from which decisions are born. The four dimensions of the decision matrix suggest four categories of decision-making challenges that could exist in any given context. Value. We need to know what we want and do not want. This often is not so simple. Action, knowing what we can do and cannot do. In challenging decisions, understanding available courses of action can require quite a bit of work. Information, knowing how actions affect outcomes in this key relationship of influence. And frame, knowing or deciding what is part of the decision and what is not. So, an effective decision-making process must guide inquiry inquiry along these four dimensions to move from a state of not knowing or lack of clarity to a state of knowing, clarity of action. The category of challenges arises from these first four, pertaining to effectiveness of this inquiry and the effectiveness of the decision-making process. How will we obtain the knowledge we need to achieve clarity of action? The decision matrix provides a foundation for effective inquiry to facilitate decision-making processes in any context, and it also provides an effective foundation for teaching and learning decision science. The decision matrix provides a conceptual structure for teaching, study, and research about decision making, since it embodies the implicit and explicit assumptions of a wide range of decision theory, decision analysis, and applied decision sciences, methods, and perspectives. Later in the course, we will develop a more elaborate model to facilitate dialogue based on the decision matrix that will incorporate additional concepts and lessons of the course. We will call this model the decision wheel and use it to focus our inquiry about specific decisions as well as our exploration of issues in decision-making in general. Our next topic in the course is influence, represented below in the top left portion of the wheel. What we do influences what happens, and what happens includes things that we care about. So influence defines how what we do affects what happens and what we care about. Without influence, we would be powerless, our actions would be pointless, and hence we would have no decisions.